Hello there, my beautiful, magnificent Leo souls, and welcome back to Cosmic Wisdom. I am so glad you have found your way here today, because if you are tuning in, I have a feeling it's not by chance. I have a feeling that your brilliant, radiant soul has been sending you signals, perhaps a quiet flicker in your inner flame, a feeling that your magnificent roar has softened to a whisper. Have you been feeling like you're playing a part in a story that someone else wrote for you? Have you ever shared a grand, sun-drenched vision, only to have someone's doubt feel like a sudden chilling eclipse? Or maybe you've heard a seemingly innocent phrase, something like, "Don't be so dramatic." Or maybe you should tone it down a little, and it silenced the magnificent fire in your heart for the rest of the day. My dear radiant Leo, please know this is not a random feeling. It is a profound and sacred signal from the very core of your being. It is the cry of your inner sovereign, the lion heart within you, telling you that your kingdom is being encroached upon. It is a sign that it is time to return to your throne, to reclaim your light, and to remember the unstoppable radiant being you were always born to be. So if you are a glorious Leo, or if you carry that fierce, loyal, and sun-kissed heart within you, this message is a sacred pact between your soul and the universe. We are about to uncover the 7 subtle, yet devastating requests that you must never ever entertain. These are not just requests, they are soul poisons for a spirit as grand as yours. They are the whispers that seek to convince the sun it should be a candle. And if you're ready to reclaim your throne and let your light blaze brighter than ever before, do me a favor right now, my friend. Gently press that subscribe button and become a cherished member of our Cosmic Wisdom family. We are on this journey together, and I want to ensure you never miss these messages that are crafted just for you to help you shine. Now take a deep, centering breath. Can you feel that? That is the rhythm of your own unconquerable heart. Let's begin. My dear Leo, let's talk about your dreams. But for you, they are not just dreams, are they? They are royal decrees from your soul. They are grand visions, magnificent blueprints for the kingdom you are here to build. Some souls are born to tend a small garden, and that is a beautiful, sacred calling. But you, Leo, you were born to cultivate an entire empire of light, creativity, and joy. So what happens when someone you trust looks at your grand design and asks you to build a smaller castle? The deepest wounds you see don't always come from a shout or a direct attack. For a Leo, the wound often comes from a seemingly well-meaning whisper, a soft, gentle suggestion that is laced with the poison of practicality. Are you sure that's realistic? Don't you think that's a little ambitious? I'm just worried you'll be disappointed. And slowly, so slowly, you barely notice you start to believe them. They don't tear down your castle walls, they just subtly convince you to stop building. They don't extinguish your fire. They just gently blow a constant cool breeze of doubt until you start to believe that your magnificent blaze is perhaps a fire hazard. I once spoke with a Leo man in his late 50s, a man with the heart of a lion, but eyes that had lost their spark. He told me that in his 20s, he had a vision to create a community arts festival. Grand, vibrant celebration of creativity that would bring his whole town together. But his family, with all the love in the world, told him, "That's a beautiful idea, but how will you make a living? Be sensible. Get a stable job." He listened. He nodded. He folded up the blueprint for his festival and put it in a drawer. He spent the next 30 years in a perfectly respectable, stable job, his soul feeling like a king living in exile in his own life. Are you living like that, my friend? Like a mighty sun that has agreed to orbit a tiny planet just because someone told you your gravitational pull was too much? They tell you to be realistic, but what is their reality? It is a reality built on their fears, not on your magnificent potential. If you live another 10, 20, or 50 years, but you never give your soul's grand vision the space to breathe, what then are you truly living for? People often misunderstand your Leo nature. They see the confidence and call it ego. They see the ambition and call it arrogance. They don't understand that your vision isn't about being better than others. It's about your soul's sacred contract with the universe to create, to lead, and to radiate joy on the grandest scale possible. Your vision is the very fuel for your inner sun. You cannot starve it and expect to feel warm. You do not need a committee to approve the decrees of your heart. Your vision is not up for a vote. It is your divine birthright. Your destiny is not a suggestion. It is a command from your higher self. So the next time someone asks you to shrink your vision, I want you to smile with all the warmth of your inner sun. And remember, you were not born to be contained. You were born to expand. You were born to build empires of light. And as we move into our next point, I want you to hold this truth in your heart. Because giving up your vision is a tragedy. But what happens when they ask you to compromise something even more sacred? What happens when they ask you to tarnish your own crown? Stay with me, because this is a truth you must know. All right, my magnificent Leos, let's go a little deeper. There is a kind of manipulation that is so insidious, especially for a heart as loyal and noble as yours. It doesn't demand or threaten. It simply asks for a small compromise. It nudges the unshakable pillars of your integrity just a millimeter at a time. They might say, "Oh, it's just a little white lie. It won't hurt anyone." Don't be so rigid, everyone does it. We're a team, we have to stick together, right? And there you are, my noble lion, standing at a crossroads. On one side is your unshakable truth, your golden code of honor. On the other is your deep, fierce loyalty and the fear of being cast out of the pride. And sometimes you might go along with it, not because you don't know right from wrong, or you always know, but because the thought of disappointing those you love, of breaking that bond, feels like a fate worse than death. But listen to me, beautiful soul, and listen closely. Your values, your honor, your integrity, they are not just ideas. They are the very gold from which your spiritual crown is forged. They are the bedrock of your inner kingdom. If you allow that gold to be tarnished, if you let those foundations crack, your entire kingdom becomes unstable. You might keep the relationship, but you will have lost your throne. I remember a Leo woman, a natural leader in her workplace, who told me, I agreed to overlook something unethical they were doing just to keep the peace and show I was a team player. She didn't weep as she told me this, but a shadow passed over her eyes, a dimming of her natural radiance. It wasn't the act itself that haunted her, it was the knowing that she had betrayed her own code. For years afterward, she said she felt a hollowness, a feeling of being an imposter in her own life. She had kept her position, but she had lost her sovereignty. You see, my friend, any peace that costs you your inner integrity is not peace at all. It is a silent, internal war, and no amount of external validation can quiet the roar of a guilty conscience in a Leo's heart. The universe speaks this truth in so many ways. In sacred texts, it is said, "What good is it for someone to gain the whole world yet forfeit their soul?" For a Leo, your soul is your honor. It is your word. It is your noble heart. Have you ever found yourself nodding along to something that made your stomach turn just to avoid conflict? Have you ever held your tongue when your inner king was roaring injustice simply because you didn't want to be seen as difficult. They don't need you to be right. They just need you to be manageable. And that is how they bargain for your crown, without ever naming the price. You pay it yourself with the slow erosion of your self-respect. But I am not here to cast blame. I am here to hand you the polishing cloth. I am here to remind you that your crown is still yours. You can always choose to restore its shine. You can say a belated no. You can realign with your truth. You don't need to be agreeable in their eyes. You only need to be a ruler you can honor every time you look in the mirror. And if this is resonating, if you feel a quiet ache for the untarnished gold of your own spirit, then stay with me. Because the next thing they ask for is even more devastating. It's no longer about your vision or your values, it's about your very light. They ask you to perform the most unnatural act a Leo can imagine. They ask you to create your own eclipse. Oh, my beautiful radiant Leos. If you hear nothing else today, please hear this. Some relationships don't feel overtly toxic. They feel constricting. They come with an unspoken, unwritten rule that you must be a little smaller, a little quieter, a little less brilliant. Not so much. You weren't rejected. You were simply loved on the condition that you would agree to be a dimmer, more manageable version of yourself. Have you ever lived like that? I know you've tried. You've held back a brilliant idea in a meeting so someone else could have the spotlight. You've recounted a triumphant story with less enthusiasm so you wouldn't seem like you were bragging. You've laughed a little more quietly, loved a little less fiercely, shone a little less brightly, all because you feared your light would make someone else feel like they were in shadow. But my dear glorious Leo, let me tell you a fundamental truth of the cosmos. Your soul, ruled by the magnificent sun, was never ever designed to have a dimmer switch. You are not a cozy living room lamp to be turned down for someone else's comfort. You are a celestial body. You are the very center of your own solar system, a radiant star meant to blaze in the sky, warming all who orbit you and guiding the lost with your unwavering light. The only thing is, you forgot that your purpose is to shine. A young Leo artist once told me, "Every time I get a new commission or my work gets recognized, my partner gets quiet. They don't say anything mean, they just withdraw. And I feel this horrible guilt, like my success is a betrayal of them." Have you ever felt that bizarre, soul-crushing guilt for daring to be as magnificent as you truly are? Dear Leo, you do not need to apologize for your brilliance. You do not need to ask for permission to be radiant. Your growth is not a betrayal. It is the most natural and beautiful thing in the universe. It is proof that you are courageously living in alignment with your soul's purpose. Those who truly love you, those who belong in your orbit, will not be blinded by your light. Oh no, they will turn their faces toward you like sunflowers. They will bask in your warmth. They will celebrate your radiance and feel inspired by it. It is only those who are unhealed, those who are insecure in their own light, who will ask you to go dim. You do not need to shrink so someone else can feel tall. You do not need to walk slower just so you can keep holding the hand of someone who refuses to run with you. That kind of self-sacrifice doesn't create happiness. It creates two tragedies, one person haunted by the guilt of holding another back, and a Leo who no longer recognizes their own faded reflection. How many times have you made yourself smaller just to keep someone near? And did it work, or did they just find another reason to be insecure? You were not born to fit in, Leo. You were born to create your own center of gravity simply by being your full, authentic, radiant self. So if someone cannot stand your blaze, do not extinguish your fire. Simply turn your light in a new direction. You do not need to give up the center stage that the universe has prepared for you. You are the star of your own life. And if you're tired of dimming, of toning it down, then our next point is critical. We're going to talk about the quiet depletion that happens when you keep pouring out your golden energy and no one ever replenishes your royal treasury. My generous, big-hearted Leo, have you ever felt like a magnificent, opulent feast laid out for all to enjoy? People come, they take, they celebrate in your abundance. But has anyone ever stopped to ask the host if they've eaten? Has anyone ever offered to help clean up the banquet hall? There is a kind of exhaustion that is unique to you, Leo. It doesn't always show as sadness. It shows as a loss of luster, a dimming of your usual vibrant energy. No one notices you are weakening because you have become so masterful at holding court, at being the strong, generous, capable one. You are the one who gives the most thoughtful gifts, but whose own birthday feels like an afterthought. You are the one who listens for hours, offering brilliant, heartfelt advice. But when was the last time someone truly asked, "And what is on your heart?" You are the rock that everyone in your pride leans on, but where do you go when you feel yourself starting to crumble? Have you ever given so much of your light, your energy, your love, that you can't even remember the last time you felt truly, deeply appreciated and seen? Not everyone who is drawn to your light knows how to be a source of light themselves. Some only know how to consume. They are drawn to your warmth, but they do not know how to bring wood for the fire. They think you are endlessly strong because you always smile, because you always show up. They don't realize that sometimes a Leo's smile is the last bastion of a kingdom that is running on fumes. Your soul, my dear, is a royal treasury meant to be filled with love, loyalty, and appreciation so that you can generously share your wealth with your kingdom. But you were not born to be endlessly plundered. You are the sun, not a disposable battery. And if that sun begins to fade, will the planets it warmed even notice? A Leo father once whispered to me, his voice thick with a quiet sorrow, "I have spent my whole life being the fun dad, the strong husband, the one who provides everything. But the one day I was sick with grief and couldn't get out of bed, I heard my family complaining that I was ruining the weekend." He didn't say it with anger. He said it with the hollow sound of a king realizing his subjects loved the crown, not the man wearing it. Perhaps you feel like that. A roaring fire that has warmed others for years, but no one ever thinks to add a log. Maybe you've given a love so magnificent, so generous, that people have simply come to take it for granted. When something is always there, it can become invisible. But dear Leo, no one, not even the sun, is meant to burn without fuel. If you feel yourself shrinking, it's not because you are weak, it's because you have been giving from an empty treasury for far too long. And now it is time to ask, who is paying tribute to your kingdom? Who is bringing you gifts of their loyalty, their admiration, their time, their love? Here is a difficult but liberating truth. Not everyone you love knows how to love you in the way your soul requires. Not everyone you have championed will return to be your champion. You are so generous, so loyal, so wholehearted that they simply assume you don't need anything in return. But you do. You need to be celebrated. You need to be cherished. You need someone who sees the effort it takes to be the sun day in and day out, and who gently says, "Let me be your moon for a while. Let me reflect your beautiful light back to you so you can rest." You are allowed to say, "I am tired." You are allowed to take a day off from being the sun. You are allowed to choose yourself instead of choosing to host the party. And if this brings a lump to your throat, please let it be there. It is the feeling of your own heart. finally asking for what it needs. And if anyone has ever made you feel that asking for appreciation is needy or that stating your needs is selfish, then the next part will be the key to unlocking your cage. We must talk about the moment they try to silence your magnificent roar. Leo, let's talk about your voice. For you, it is not just a voice. It is an instrument of passion, of truth, of drama, of joy. It is your royal proclamation. It is your roar. But you have lived in a world that is often afraid of such magnificent sounds. You grew up in spaces where people might have said, "Don't be so dramatic. You're being too loud. Calm down, it's not that big of a deal." And so the truth wasn't lost. It was muzzled. You learned to pull back a passionate declaration just as it was about to burst forth. You learned to smile politely and say, "It's fine," when what your heart was screaming was, "This is a grand injustice." That simple phrase, "It's fine," is a cage for a Leo's soul. Behind it, a whole tempest of righteous passion has been compressed into a single, still drop of water. You, Leo, are a natural performer on the stage of life. You feel things with a grandness that others can barely comprehend. And because you are so attuned to your audience, you sometimes choose silence to avoid making others feel uncomfortable with the sheer magnitude of your truth. You believed that if you muffled your roar, the show would go on more smoothly. But no one ever told you that when you silence your own truth, your body keeps the score. It will find other ways to roar, through tension in your jaw, a fire in your belly, a feeling of being a forgotten actor in your own play. Have you ever been forced to applaud for something that your soul was booing? Have you ever sat in a crowd and felt like you were fading to black simply because you knew that if you spoke your passionate, fiery truth, people would call you too much? How many royal decrees have you kept locked in your heart just because you didn't want to upstage someone, but while you were protecting their comfort, who was protecting your kingdom? A Leo woman, a brilliant teacher, once told me, "I just stopped speaking up in meetings. Every time I did with all my passion and ideas, my boss would make a joke about my theatrics. It was easier to just be quiet." She said it so calmly, but I could see the fire in her had been banked. The world had lost a passionate leader because one person was too insecure to stand near her flame. Your roar is not a burden, Leo. It is a gift. It is the sound of authenticity. It is the sound of a heart that is fully, magnificently alive. Truth does not need to be validated. It only needs to be spoken. And your prolonged silence doesn't heal anything. It only allows injustice to take root in the soil of your kingdom. You have the right to say, "This is not okay with me." You have the right to tell your story with all the passion, drama, and flair that is your birthright, unedited, unsoftened, and without apology for someone else's comfort. And if you've ever stayed silent because you feared your roar might scare someone away, then please remember this with all your heart. Anyone who leaves you for speaking your truth was never truly loyal to your kingdom. They were loyal to the idea of a tame lion. And you, my friend, are not tame. So I invite you now to place a hand on your throat. Feel the vibration there. That is your power. That is your truth. Whisper to it, "I will no longer be silenced." Because you don't have to live in a world where only quiet compliance is rewarded. You are not an inconvenience, you are an event. And if your eyes are shining with unshed tears right now, know this: a world is waiting for your roar. A world is waiting for you to take the stage again. And in our next part, we will touch on the ultimate act of treason, not from others, but from within. The moment you betray your own royal self just to be accepted into a court that doesn't deserve you. My dear Leo, have you ever felt yourself slowly becoming a stranger to your own soul, like a magnificent, vibrant tapestry being carefully folded and refolded into a small, neat, beige square, just to fit into a box you once mistook for a treasure chest? You're still you, but a muted version, a flattened version, a smaller version custom-tailored to fit into a space you once mistook for love. Some relationships don't demand you change overnight. They just subtly suggest that maybe you could be a little less you, a little less bold, a little less shiny, a little less certain, a little less Leo. And so, you begin to abdicate. You change the way you dress, because your magnificent style was too attention-grabbing. You laugh with less gusto, because your joy was a bit much. You stay silent about your accomplishments, because your pride was mistaken for arrogance. At first, you tell yourself, these are small compromises for harmony. But piece by piece, you give away the crown jewels of your personality. And one day, you look in the mirror and you see a court jester where a monarch used to stand. You are accepted, but not revered. You are kept, but not truly seen. Leo, no love that is real will ever ask you to be a watered-down version of yourself in order to receive it. True acceptance is not about trimming away your magnificent edges to become softer. True acceptance is being celebrated exactly as you are, in all your fiery, dramatic, glorious splendor. I met a Leo man who had been a creative force in his youth, a musician, a performer. He told me, I thought to be a good husband and father, I had to be serious. I put away my guitar, I stopped writing songs, I became a practical man, because that's what they seem to need. He built a wonderful life for his family, but he confessed, one night, I sat alone in the dark, and I couldn't feel my own heartbeat. It was like they loved the king, but they had asked him to execute the artist inside him to prove his love. Perhaps you have felt that too, Leo, that dull ache of a spirit in exile. The universe itself speaks against this betrayal. In ancient wisdom, we are taught, to thine own self be true. And spirit whispers, I knew you before you were formed in the womb, and I made no mistakes in your creation. You were designed with these sacred, unrepeatable, magnificent lines, not to please a focus group, but to complete a cosmic masterpiece that only you can paint. If someone only loves the version of you that has abdicated your throne, then what they love is not your soul. They love the comfort and convenience of a ruler who won't challenge them. And that kind of love, no matter how safe it feels, is like a beautiful palace with no air. You can exist there, but you cannot breathe. You don't need to fit in my magnificent Leo. You need to be enthroned. The approval of others is a fleeting currency, but your own self-acceptance, that is the gold standard of your kingdom. How long has it been since you dared to desire out loud, without fearing you'd be called too much? You were never meant to be a lullaby, Leo. You are the grand overture of an opera. You are the echo of the Big Bang, not meant to be easily understood, but once experienced, no one ever stays the same. And if you've ever begun to doubt your own majesty, ever asked yourself, what's wrong with me that I'm so hard to love? Then in our final, most important part, I will share the key that will unlock your kingdom once and for all. It is the one thing that once you remember it, no one can ever take from you again. It is your own divine, unshakable worth. Leo, some wounds don't come from a direct hit. They come from the slow, creeping chill of being overlooked. No one called you unworthy. No one explicitly rejected you. They just stopped seeing your magic. They got so used to your warmth that they forgot the sun was a star. And in their neglect, you started to ask yourself, Do I still matter? Does my light still make a difference? Bit by bit, you quieted your own praise, not because you had nothing to celebrate, but because you started to wonder if anyone was listening. There is a kind of invisibility that can break even the strongest lion's heart, not because you were hurt, but because you were forgotten. As if your reign had never mattered. You used to be the one people turned to for inspiration, for courage, for a dose of pure, unadulterated joy. You were the safe harbor, the roaring fire everyone gathered around. But as life moved on, as your role changed, as you were no longer useful, in the same way you began to retreat into a quieter, colder corner of your own kingdom. And you started to believe that your worth, your sovereignty, had been left behind in a bygone era. But my dear, magnificent Leo, your true worth, your divine right to rule your own life, does not come from your audience. It comes from your very existence. I once met an elderly Leo woman. In her prime, she had been a community organizer, a force of nature who had built parks, started charities, and inspired hundreds. But now, living quietly, she told me, "I think my time is over. I'm just a little old lady now." Then one day, a young woman knocked on her door. The woman had grown up in that town and was now a successful entrepreneur. She held the old woman's hands and said, "I am who I am today because I once saw you command a room and I realized what was possible. You are the reason I learned to lead." And that forgotten queen wept not from sadness, but from the sudden powerful remembering of who she had always been. Perhaps you are living like she was, with a layer of dust on your throne, with a quiet belief that, maybe I don't matter anymore. But hear my proclamation. No one has the right to make you forget the sovereignty that the universe itself bestowed upon you at your birth. No one. You do not need to be seen to be valuable. You are valuable even when the theater is empty. You are valuable even when you don't have the strength to perform. People got used to you being the sun, but even on a cloudy day, the sun is still the most powerful object in the solar system. The Buddha taught that one who knows their own worth is unmoved by praise or blame. And the divine whispers, "You are my beloved child, in whom I am well pleased." You don't have to do anything more to prove your right to rule. You only need to remember, your sovereignty was never lost. It was just waiting for you to reclaim your throne. And so today, I invite you to rise, not to prove anything to anyone, but to return to yourself. You are still here. You survived. You are still breathing. And that in itself is a miracle worthy of a standing ovation. Take a deep royal breath. This is your coronation. And if you are still here listening to these final words, I know it is because your soul is ready. It is ready to be seen, to be honored, to be remembered. So I want you to make a sacred vow, a royal decree to your own soul. Write it in the comments below. Not for me, but as a seal upon your heart. I am reclaiming my throne. Write it as a declaration that you are opening the doors to your kingdom once more, and you will rule with love, with light, and with an unwavering knowledge of your own magnificent worth. My dear Leo friends, we have reached the end of this journey together, but it is truly just the beginning of your magnificent return. January 18th is a powerful day, a cosmic portal, but its energy is a tool for the work you are now ready to do. You were never meant to be a supporting character. You were never meant to be a quiet, convenient version of yourself. You came into this world with a soul that burns with the fire of 1,000 suns, a soul that cannot be copied, cannot be replaced, and will not be silenced forever. And today, if something has awakened within you, hold it, cherish it, nurture that returning flame. It is the sacred reminder that no one but you can choose yourself again. Thank you for walking this path with me, for allowing me to reflect your own brilliant light back to you. I would love to hear from you. What part of this message roared the loudest in your heart? Share your stories, your insights, your declarations in the comments. When we share our light, we create a cosmos of support for one another. And of course, if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to Cosmic Wisdom. We have so much more to share with you to support you on your incredible journey. You can click on one of the videos you see on your screen now to continue exploring your limitless Leo potential. Remember, you are the ruler of your own reality. You are worthy, you are magnificent, and you are so loved. Thank you for being here. Shine on.